So, do you really need $5,000 and $10,000 microphones to get pro-level, radio-ready recordings in your home studio? I'm going to show you my 3 favorite microphones that we use here in the studio 6 days a week. These are our daily drivers. And each one of these microphones costs less than $1,000. Hey guys, it's Steve from Featherlight Studio, and I get this question all the time. What do you guys have in your mic locker? What do you guys use for microphones? What do you guys use for vocal microphones? And it might surprise you to learn that my 3 favorite microphones that we use here in the studio every single day are not the most expensive microphones that we have. But they're the most consistent microphones that we have. Now, as a kid growing up in LA, I got a chance to work in some world-class studios, and those world-class studios had a great mic locker. They had tons of great options and some great vintage mics, but those vintage mics also came with vintage problems. They had vintage maintenance requirements. We had to have maintenance guys around the clock to keep those things working and consistent. And the thing and the advantage about some of the modern day clones is they're phenomenally close to those sounds, but they don't have the vintage mic problems either. And they're already so close that, you can get the rest of the way with minor EQ tweaks. But the advantage of them is that they're incredibly consistent. When you grab one, it sounds the same every time you grab it. And that's such an important thing during a session. Now, if you're just recording yourself, at home and you're lucky enough to find that one mic that sounds great on your voice, great. But if you're recording really anybody else beside yourself, you're gonna need a couple of other colors, or at least a mic that can cover a bit more ground. And even modeling mics, while it might seem like that's the best solution because, theoretically you get every mic there is, it's a little different than that. A microphone is a different kind of animal than a modeled mic, because even modeled mics are based around a particular set of microphone hardware. And the advantage of different physical hardware microphones is they all behave a little different. They all have different quirks and characteristics. And after a while, you learn to really use those quirks and characteristics to your advantage. And you get used to them. They become familiar tools. So every time you grab it and you put it up, it sounds the way you think it's going to sound. And this is really the advantage, I think. And nowadays, with the costs of some really great clones and copies coming down, it really brings them into the hands of most people and most home studios. So first things first, this isn't a sponsored video. We bought these microphones with our own money, just like everybody else. This is our genuine opinion of how these mics actually work in the real world. And the first mic we're going to take a look at is Microphones V67. This is part of their vintage series, and it is just a beautiful microphone with a silky top end that seems to make everything, especially vocals, sound better. And even though this is a vocal mic comparison, this mic may very well be one of my absolute favorites on acoustic and electric guitars as well. And the next microphone we're going to take a look at is Warm Audio's WA-251. This is a big, bold tube microphone, and it has a beautiful, full, low mid and low end presence, but it's got one of the most detailed and smoothest mid ranges I've ever heard on any microphone. And while it's not an identical copy of a 251, in many ways I actually prefer it. And the last microphone we're going to take a look at is Shure's venerable KSM44A. This is a big, lush microphone that has an incredibly low noise floor and just somehow manages to sound big and beautiful on just about everything we use it on vocals, on woodwinds and strings, on brass, on overheads, on acoustic guitar. It works on the widest range of vocals of all the microphones, and if you had to do a session with just one microphone, this is probably the one you'd reach for first. So in this video, we're going to do things a bit differently. We're going to take the exact same vocal performance and put it through each one of the 3 microphones so that you can hear the subtle differences and subtle characteristics of each one. If we just had a performer sing through each one of the microphones, it would be a completely subjective test because the performance would fluctuate ever so slightly and it would be very difficult to really make any determinations about the differences. And the idea here is really to hear how each one of the microphones differ from each other, and to also hear how they react to a real performance. So in this particular case, we're going to set up all 3 microphones the exact same distance so that we don't end up with phase issues, we don't end up with off-axis coloration issues, we don't end up with proximity issues, and then we're going to have the exact same performance go through each one of those microphones under identical circumstances. And this will give you a much better idea of what each one of the microphone's characteristics really are. It's so easy to get caught up in the spin and the hype and the mystique and everything, especially around vintage microphones or vintage microphone copies. It's really, really tough to really determine what that even sounds like without some kind of predictable reference. And one of the best sites on the internet to be able to do that is a site called Audio Test Kitchen. These guys test more microphones than just about anybody else, and it allows you to do an unbelievable amount of research on your own, right from your own laptop, because you can really hear the differences between each one of the microphones and hear how they sound compared to each other. So if you get a chance, I'll leave that in the links below. Check out Audio Test Kitchen. We spent an incredible amount of time on that site before we purchased these 3 microphones. And what we found was that the most expensive microphone is not always the best microphone, and it's certainly not always the best microphone for you. So we're going to use some of that same methodology that they use in Audio Test Kitchen here to test these 3 microphones so that you can get a better idea of the differences between each one. First, we're going to set up all 3 microphones in their front-facing positions so we can have the exact same performance go into each one of the microphone capsules. Each microphone capsule is going to be in its cardioid position. From there, our downstream processing is going to be as transparent as we can make it. We're going to bypass all of the additional signal path that we would normally add, like our Avalon 737 and our 1176s, and instead go directly into our digital mixing board, straight into the audio interface section. So this bypasses as much signal processing as possible and allows us to hear each microphone as uncolored as possible. First, we're going to try out our 3 microphones on a female vocalist, and this is, of course, Shaene Marie Pascal. She is a Northwest artist that just skyrocketed to popularity after her first album, To Make New Friends, and she has become a very well-known regional act ever since, and we're so fortunate to have her in helping us out with this demo on her single, Sci-Fi Fantasy.
Wanna get outside and go to the show, but what if I get there and there's nobody there I know? Stick to the shadows and go out back and wander around in between sets. Go up to a stranger, bum a cigarette. I don't even smoke, I just don't know what to do with my hands. Ooh.
Now we're going to audition each one of the microphone lanes individually.
Wanna get outside and go to the show, but what if I get there and there's nobody there I know? Stick to the shadows and go out back and wander around in between sets. Go up to a stranger, bum a cigarette. I don't even smoke, I just don't know what to do with my hands. Wanna get outside and go to the show, but what if I get there and there's nobody there I know? Stick to the shadows and go out back and wander around in between sets. Go up to a stranger, bum a cigarette. I don't even smoke, I just don't know what to do with my hands. Wanna get outside and go to the show, but what if I get there and there's nobody there I know? Stick to the shadows and go out back and wander around in between sets. Go up to a stranger, bum a cigarette. I don't even smoke, I just don't know what to do with my hands. Wanna get outside and go to the show, but what if I get there and there's nobody there I know. Wanna get outside and go to the show, but what if I get there and there's nobody there I know? Wanna get outside and go to the show, but what if I get there and there's nobody there I know? Wanna get outside and go to the show, but what if I get there and there's nobody there I know? Wanna get outside and go to the show, but what if I get there and there's nobody there I know? Wanna get outside and go to the show, but what if I get there and there's nobody there I know?
Now let's try a different set of tonalities and try all three microphones on a male vocal instead. Late last summer, just about midnight, men came across our county line, looking like trouble, smelling like white trash. Word must have got around about Daddy's stash of moonshine. And just like before, we're going to audition each microphone individually. Late last summer, just about midnight, men came across our county line, looking like trouble, smelling like white trash. Word must have got around about Daddy's stash of moonshine. Late last summer, just about midnight, men came across our county line, looking like trouble, smelling like white trash. Word must have got around about Daddy's stash of moonshine. Late last summer, just about midnight, men came across our county line, looking like trouble, smelling like white trash. Word must have got around about Daddy's stash of moonshine. Late last summer, just about midnight, late last summer, just about midnight, late last summer, just about midnight. So there's a quick look at my three favorite microphones that we use here in the studio 6 days a week and why they're such a joy to use because of their consistency and their characteristics. As we learn to use them and we get comfortable at reaching for them, it gets to the point where you get a specific kind of vocalist or a particular genre of music and you're like, oh, I got the perfect mic for that. It's going to work great. And it's nice to have tools like that that are dependable, but more importantly, sound the same every single time. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I appreciate it. If you learned something or if this was helpful in any way, please hit the subscription and notification bells. It really does help keep the channel going. It helps me make more videos like this. Stay safe. Be creative. Add something creative to the world. I could really use it. Take care. We'll catch you guys in the next video.